Hello everybody, Ghostblade 1062 here with another locomotive review. Today we will be looking at one of the recently released scale trains rivet counter HypoTypical ET44ACHs in the Santa Fe War Bonnet scheme. And for those of you who don't know of the HypoTypical line that Scale Trains has introduced, they are essentially what-if locomotives. So, what if Santa Fe was still operating on its own and had not merged with Burlington Northern? What if Conrail was still active? What if the Rio Grande was still active? So this paint scheme is what a Tier 4 GEVO could have looked like if the Santa Fe was still active. So that being said, let's move on to the unboxing. Alright, time to take a closer look at the box. So the box is still fairly similar to the usual rivet counter line boxes, with the exception of having the HypoTypical rivet counter HypoTypical logo on here. And here we have the Scale Trains logo and website, as well as this is a GE Tier 4 GEVO. On the bottom and top, we again have the Scale Trains branding. We have the rivet counter logo. We have the Scale Trains address, website, and phone number. On the left side, we have the rivet counter logo and website. And then on the right-hand side here, we have a picture of the locomotive. We see it is DCC and sound equipped. It is a General Electric Tier 4 GEVO in the Santa Fe ET44ACH paint scheme. It is ATSF number 961 Superfleet. It is equipped with a lock sound decoder, and it is product ID SXT40561. And then on the back of the box, we have some prototype history of the GEVOs. We have a list of road-specific features. And we have some information about the HypoTypical line, as well as Scale Trains as a manufacturer. And now, taking off the lid, first of all, we have our instruction manual here. And here we have everything from prototype information, which again, this is a HypoTypical, so a what-if locomotive. But it gives information about the Tier 4 GEVOs. You have handling information, cleaning information, lubrication instructions, operating instructions. You got your function chart. You got your CVs. You got more detailed function information. All in all, quite a lot of information included. And now, taking off this foam protective sheet, we get access to the clamshell that holds the actual locomotive. And Already we can see that it, even in the package, that it has a nice silver coloration, which is something I'm personally quite fond of. I really do like when locomotives have a nice silver color on them. Taking off the outer sleeve of the clamshell here, we also have included this little baggie of replacement rotating bearing caps. And now, popping open the clamp, we get access to the locomotive itself. And now all that's left is to remove the foam that is put in place to help keep the handrails from being damaged. There we go. That's all of the foam out, and here we have the locomotive. And last but not least, we need to take out these truck immobilizers, unless we want the locomotive to topple over and get damaged. And with that, we are now ready to move on to the detail overview section of the video. Time to take a closer look at this beautiful locomotive. Starting at the front here, we have our snowplow with our MU cables and airline hoses. We have a gray painted knuckle coupler, which is different from the usual rusty orange-brown that Scale Trains usually uses. We have our grab irons here on top of the plow, as well as our yellow painted handrails going up on either side to the small walkway. We also have our front ditch lights here. The walkway itself is corrugated, or actually no, diamond plate. And in behind here we have our front cab access door with a window, as well as our headlights and yellow painted grab irons going up to the top of the short hood. We also have the Santa Fe logo printed across the front of the short hood here. On top of the short hood we have several grab irons as well as our two sand filler hatches. We have clear plastic windows that allow us to see into the cab with windshield wipers equipped. These are separately fitted plastic, and above that we have our number boards, which are backlit. Moving on to the side of the locomotive here, you can see the yellow lining on the steps going up to the front of the short hood. This is to help with seeing the edges climbing up. We have the locomotive type identification here. But then right here on the cab we have our road number, this being 961. We also have our clear plastic windows which we can see through into the cab with wind deflector and sunshade. On the trucks We have our brake detailing as well as suspension detailing and rotating bearing caps on all three front axles, as well as we can see that the faces of the wheels are painted gray, whereas Scaletrains usually paints the front faces of the wheels of their locomotives a rusty orange brown, which is different. But moving along the side, we have our first set of exhaust vents here alongside our handrails. We also have our FRA striping along the edge of the frame here, with the Santa Fe logo on the side. We have all of our various access hatches also very nicely molded in visibly. On the fuel tank here, we see our fuel gauge as well as our fuel cap, and we have our emergency shutoffs. Now moving on towards the rear of the locomotive, we have more vents along the radiator area here, as well as our separately fitted plastic brake wheel. The rear truck here, we have our brake chains and just the center axle has rotating bearing caps. Now moving on to the rear of the locomotive, we have our rear plow here. We again have our knuckle coupler. We have our MU cables. We have our yellow painted handrails on the back here, and steps on either side. Then moving on towards the top here, we have our rear lights, and we have the road number painted on either side of the back of the radiator. Moving on to this side, we do have on this side rotating bearing caps on all the axles, whereas on the front truck we only have the center one visible on this side. And again, we have our gridding for our radiator. We have the Santa Fe logo, our various access hatches molded in, our handrails. We do have a back door on the cab here on this side with clear window. On this side we also have, on the tank here, we have our two air reservoir tanks. And again, we have our fuel hatches, emergency shutoff, and our fuel gauge here. And under the cab window, we have our road number, we have our locomotive typing here. Looking at the locomotive from the top, we have our antenna array on the roof of the cab here. We have various access hatches. We have our 5-chime horn. And then we have an offset exhaust stack here. And moving on to the end, we have our radiator grills. All in all, a very nicely detailed locomotive. It's got a fair bit of weight to it as well, which is nice, so it shouldn't have any issues with pulling. Taking a look at the underside, we don't really have any real detailing here. We do not have any traction tires. And that covers the detail overview section of the video. So next, we will move on to the rip track segment to see if the locomotive is ready to go onto the track. Time to make sure the locomotive is ready for the track. To start off with, we'll verify the wheel gauge utilizing the NMRA standards gauge. Starting on the rear truck here, axle number 1 is good, number 2 is good, and number 3 is good. Now for the front truck, axle number 1 is good, number 2 is good, and number 3 is good. So that's a good start. All of our axles are engaged. Now we'll verify the coupler height. Okay, front truck is on properly, rear truck. And from the looks of it, the front coupler is good, if not just a slight touch low. Now onto the rear truck here. Good, we're level. And the rear coupler is good. So both of our couplers are good. Our wheels are all properly engaged. So we are now ready to take the locomotive over to the track for a function test. I will off camera also be reprogramming the address of the locomotive to match the road number. And I will be back shortly. Time for the function test. To start off with, I'm gonna put the locomotive into speed step number 1 out of 128 and see how well it moves. And I have not yet run it in, so this is still fresh out of the box. On speed step number 1, it is moving nice and slow, but smooth. Speed step 2 and 3, 4. Now into reverse. Acceleration is smooth. And now we'll begin with the actual functions, starting with function 0, the directional lighting. And we have a nice warm yellow light, which, if I change into reverse, comes on the back as well. Function 1 is the bell. Function 2 is the horn, as well as bell, accompanied by bell. Now I'm going to skip ahead to function number 8, the startup sequence. And this also turns on the walkway light as well as the number board lights. Function 3 is the coupler sounds. Or at least it's supposed to be. Function 4 is the dynamic brakes. Function 5 is the DPU light. Which also toggles off the headlight. Function 6 is the ditch light, which is directional, so when the locomotive is in reverse, it turns off. Function 7 is flange squeal, which we will hear once the locomotive is in motion. Function 9 is the drive hold. Function 10, independent brake. Function 11 is the radiator fan. Function 12 is the headlight dimmer. Function 13, the air dryer. Function 14 turns off the number board lights. Function 15 is the isolation switch. Function 16 is air dryer on shutdown. Function 17 is auto brake set and release. Function 18 is the sanding valve. Function 19 is short air let off. Function 20 is the compressor. Function 21 is supposed to be the handbrake, but it is not accurate in the manual. Functions 3 and 21 are actually switched. Function 22 is the cab door. Function 23 is the engine hood door. Function 24 is the reverser center. Function 25 is the cooling shutters. Function 26 is manual notch up. Function 27 is manual notch down. Function 28 is the manual notching logic. And this controls the previous two functions. Function 29 is load simulation. And finally, function 30 is automatic brakes. And now I'm gonna let the locomotive run in, and I'll be back for some run-by footage. Alright everybody, this concludes my review of the Scale Trains Rivet Counter ET44ACH in the Santa Fe War Bonnet scheme from Scale Trains' HypoTypical line. All in all, it is a beautiful model. In the future I plan to pair it with my Atlas Black Bonnet, as that is a fantasy scheme, so hypotypical and fantasy going side by side. Both schemes don't exist on their respective locomotives. For the running part of the video, I did use some European rolling stock, as I currently had that on the track for upcoming reviews of other rolling stock. But the locomotive itself is beautifully detailed. The paint is nice and crisp. I didn't see any overspray. It's running smoothly. Sound quality is nice and clear. And all in all, I can't really complain. That being said, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment, and subscribe for more model railroad content. Have a great day, everybody.